Metal subgenres are weird, especially post-black metal. What is post-black metal? What's the difference between post and traditional black metal? I'll explain both sonically and philosophically on episode 202 of Heavy Metal Philosophy. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, Jon Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's riff of the week. Post-black metal is a subgenre that is difficult to define, but I can give you a couple of characteristics that'll make it a whole lot easier. For me, one of the first things I look for is if I can see and hear a bass player in the band. I'm kidding, y'all. Of course, traditional black metal bands have bass players. At least they're listed in the Band on Metal archives anyway. All right. Y'all know I can't analyze extreme metal without making a bass player joke somewhere. But another indicator you could look for in post-black metal is the drumming style. Whereas traditional black metal drumming starts with a lot of punta punta puntas and ends with a lot of that blast beats. Post-metal drums tend to use those as well as more traditional rock-oriented drumming techniques. Just listen to this and how long it is in between snare hits. There's a telltale characteristic in the guitar playing as well. That traditional black metal tremolo picking, it's still present. However, post-metal does it in a much more shoegaze fashion. The melodies are more constant and droning, and the production is thick with reverb and echo, and this creates more of a soaring atmosphere instead of a cold and frigid one. It's like they listen to a lot of Mayhem and Deftones. And we're going to need to get to philosophy soon because sonically, that pretty much covers it, because most of the post-black metal bands I'm going to talk about today sound way different from each other. And that's a good thing. That doesn't mean that they're not in the same genre. Just look at thrash metal. The big four sounded way different from each other. Megadeth sounded more technical, Metallica sounded more tight and groovy, Anthrax was more fun and had more trad metal in it, and Slayer became the precursor to second wave black metal. But those bands are still in the same subgenre because they share a few characteristics and philosophies. And before we get into the philosophical differences in traditional black metal and post-black metal, let's cover one last superficial characteristic. In the clips that I've played of these bands, did you notice how they were dressed? Notice there isn't any corpse paint. No one's wearing a cloak or a hood, and there's not a spike to be seen anywhere. They're just in plain black clothes. They look like they could have just gotten off their job as a barista and hopped directly on the stage. And that is not an insult. God bless those who deliver unto me the Lord's greatest gift. Now back to fashion. We've been over this before when I covered the difference in aesthetics between death metal bands and metalcore bands. And some people's take on that was clothes don't make the music, which is a respectable take. At the end of the day, that's the truth. However, for black metal in particular, the aesthetics and the music have always gone hand in hand. And when it's done well, it really adds to the evil vibes. Some bands just look really cool doing it. And some bands look campy doing it. But there's a place for that too. I'm a death metal fan. I've got no business judging anyone for campiness when all my favorite bands just scream about zombies and B-slasher films. But I do think post-black metal's more stripped down aesthetic does actually say something about the music, just like corpse paint does for more traditional black metal. And what that aesthetic says about the music leads me to the philosophy portion. What does the quote post in post-black metal even mean? Well, there are several definitions, and probably the most direct one would simply be after. Post-black metal came after the second wave of black metal, and this would lead a lot of people to call bands like White Ward and Gay Area third wave black metal, but I'm not one of them. I want to look at a different definition of the word post. Let's look how it's used in philosophy. Let's look at postmodernism. Postmodernism is a reaction to assumed certainties about scientific and rational explanations of reality. So if we look at post-black metal through that reactionary lens, we see bands playing black metal and saying, do we have to do it this way? We can see this branch in the genre as a reaction to all the black metal that came before it. After a decade of satanic second wave black metal, these bands wanted a new topic to cover and new atmospheres to explore. I mean, after all, how many more songs where the chorus is just screeching Lucifer's name do we really need? Rock and roll has been flirting with the devil since its inception. But today, we can watch wars on handheld devices while we wait in line at the grocery store. And we know intimate details about the sexual lives of celebrities and politicians. Then we look in the comments section to find the best memes and most depraved comments about the suffering of others. I don't know, man. It seems to me like a couple of decades into the 21st century, Lucifer just doesn't seem that dangerous anymore. It's us that we got to worry about. And so, satanic black metal has kind of become a meme.
What is the primary ideology or primary ideas that fuel Barbas music?
Satan.
So just like their postmodern counterparts in philosophy, post-black metal bands are seeking critical views and deconstruction of all the tropes of their favorite bands. Gone are the upside-down crosses on the stage. Gone are the impaled pig heads, and instead we get pink album covers. That's right. While Alcest might be credited with pioneering the genre, it was the 2013 Deafheaven album Sunbather that really drew the ire of the true cult black metal purists. That's right, Deafheaven released an album of blackened indie rock shoegaze with a pink album cover, and the internet cried out, "That's not true black metal!" To which I responded, "Good!" And I want to be clear here. In the past, when I've criticized some of black metal's more absurd requirements, I've been accused of actually hating black metal and its fans. I do not hate black metal. I hate rules on music. And in no genre is it more ridiculous to have rules on music than in the supposed most blasphemous one. If someone else were to make a podcast praising all their favorite death metal albums, but then had a minor critique of there being too many zombie lyrics and overly technical riffs, I would never think, oh, this person must hate me. It's okay to criticize what you love. Black metal started as a big middle finger to the church and to modern society. So when Deafheaven releases a pink album with stripped down aesthetics and no theatrics, I celebrate that. Not because I hate theatrics. For God's sake, I'm a Behemoth fan. I celebrate that because they're breaking the rules. And it's not just their clothes that are breaking tropes. It's also the content. The songs aren't exclusively about Beelzebub. Instead, they're about introspection and depression. This expands the art form and paves the way forward for further exploration into the future. Black metal's OGs and most important figures, like Isan, understand this. Isan's solo work was right there with Alcest, Wolves in the Throne Room, and Panopticon, pioneering this new wave. This is exciting and unique music. For post-black metal bands, I recommend all the aforementioned artists as well as White Ward, Agriculture, and Harakiri for the Sky. Speaking of Harakiri for the Sky, they've got a new album called Scorched Earth coming out this Friday, January the 24th. And my review of this album will also be published this Friday over at Metal Digest, if the creek don't rise, inshallah. I'll give you a little preview of that record as the episode closes with the riff of the week. But before we get to that, let me know, what are your favorite post-black metal bands? Put it in the comments. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.